last week on Brago 24/7. How does spiritual blindness play a part in marriage, problems, and divorce? What is spiritual blindness, and can a Christian become spiritually blind? So what is that?
It's about spiritual warfare.
Mm-hmm. Hi, I am your host, Leonette Talley, and you are listening to Virago 24/7. Virago is Latin for female warrior, and 24/7 is for all day, every day. Virago 24/7 is a weekly podcast that brings diverse women together to talk about life and our experiences in this world. We share our views on self-love, mental health, marriage, children, friendships, and really anything that needs to be talked about. Here, you will find everyday growth, everyday healing with everyday warriors. Just give me my space to move. It's my thoughts, what I want, and I want what I want.
Spiritual blindness is thinking that there is no warfare going on spiritually. You're thinking that what's happening with you is about that person. And you're almost thinking that the devil has no play in this whole process, no part in this whole process. So there's a spiritual battle going on all the time. And one of the main things the devil feels threatened about is a godly marriage. He doesn't want that. So anything he can do and say and whisper to your spouse to make sure that marriage doesn't work or grow, he's going to do. And if you don't see that, you're blind to the fact that spiritual warfare is happening. And it is attacking and fighting your marriage daily. And if you're not intentional or prayerful about what you're doing, and like Robert mentioned, he said when he goes to bed at night, the thing that he starts to do is pray that the Holy Spirit or God is like protecting your thoughts at night. Because that's he feels one of the main ways and when the devil will start attacking you.
In your sleep.
In your sleep.
I believe it. My insecurity is you stepping out on the marriage, right? And what do I dream about at night?
That I've cheated on you.
Oh my gosh. And I mentioned this to people.
You wake up mad at me.
I'm like
I actually cheated on you.
I say,
which for the record, people, I have not. But
okay, good. That's good to know.
Every night, not every night.
Not every night. Every few months.
The next night. The next morning, you're like, the next day, I can't believe you did that to me.
I'm like, you cheated on me.
And I'm like, what? And what did I do?
And every single dream, you're so nonchalant. Like, yeah, I'm doing it. I love you. I take care of you. So like, you're so nonchalant, so matter of fact. You're not apologetic at all. And so it's just like, what the hell, Felipe? What the hell? And it is an insecurity of mine. And I used to think, oh my gosh, it's a sign. It's a sign in my sleep. It's a message. I got to be on high alert.
It's the devil.
And for the longest time, I was like, that's a sign that I got to pay attention. But then I realized it's my subconscious just letting me know that I'm insecure.
Spiritual blindness. That's spiritual warfare.
But you had one. And that was your first one when I cheated on you.
I've had a couple, but that's, and I've never had that.
And that was recent too.
But I think it was like last year was the first time I ever had a dream that you cheated on me.
Yeah. Oh, the couple that you have, it's more you cheated on me in your dreams? Because you said you've had a couple.
No. I've had a couple since then.
Oh, since then.
That you've cheated on me.
Oh, you didn't tell me. I thought it was that one time.
No.
Oh.
I've had a couple of those. It's like 2 or 3. I have told you.
The tables have turned, everybody.
I have told you. So yeah, I've never had that dream in the 18 years of our marriage until last year.
Well, damn. know.
But again,
What's in your subconscious, Felipe?
It's nothing in my subconscious.
It's the devil.
It's the devil.
That's what spiritual blindness is. It's just not understanding.
Or not aware, and you don't see that there is spiritual battle happening, or there's spiritual warfare happening in life. And you're thinking, oh, I can do this on my own. It's just me, or I'm making these decisions. People, things are whispering in your ear, or things that you hear. Is this my decision? Is this the devil's decision? And not realizing that that's a thing. Mm-hmm. You're blind to the fact that this is happening. Mm-hmm. And Christians can definitely be spiritually blind.
I agree.
Christians, that's kind of mystical.
Yeah.
That's just kind of this voodoo that there's spiritual warfare. Mm-hmm. But if you believe in miracles, you got to believe in spiritual warfare. If you believe in angels, there's things that happen that you can't see.
No.
You believe in oxygen and you breathe it every day.
I know we're talking about marriage, but just in general, as a human being, that's lately in the past few years when I've grown into my faith and stuff. That's where I get emotional, is because I know there's this like battle within. I know what my humanness wants to do, and I know what the right thing to do is. And when I get like upset or sad,
there's a conflict between
it's this conflict of like, my human side wants to just like blow shit up. Right. But then my spiritual side is like, okay, let's be kind. And then I get very pissed because I was like, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to be the bigger person. And so I'm like fighting with myself.
Right.
So I don't think that ever goes away, even when you are aware.
No.
And so I've learned to go through.
Because if you think that it's not, you're not aware of it.
Imagine when you're not aware. Yeah. I become more aware of why I'm feeling. Okay, why do I feel this way? It's because I'm conflicted of, I want to be this way, say it like this, but I know that's not the right way of doing it. Right. So, all right. So we talked about communication being one of the biggest conflicts in a marriage. And then we also hear money and finances. Huge. We hear that's huge, right up there of where there's conflict. How does a couple get on the same page?
This is so funny. And this is the one time I'm actually going to bring up a name.
Okay.
And a question and a thing with the men's group. Because, the Virago people know him. Yeah. So McQuaidus, a.k.a. Milky, I'm not going to call the grown man Milky, brought up the fact that, he said, man, I don't want to have to share my finances with someone. Okay. Because they're mine. Mm-hmm. And he asked the question in the men's group, what, is that bad? And I was like, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. That's about trust. That's being selfish. And if you have the right person, you're okay with that. Yeah. Because that's what we do.
So he wants to keep it separate.
Well, he hasn't. He's been single, for 30-something years. Mm-hmm. So his thing is like, I can't even imagine
letting someone know how much I make.
Well, yeah, but you're not there yet.
Sharing the money. Yeah.
He hasn't gotten you to that point. And that person is.
How was that with you? Obviously, because when I was 25 years old, I wasn't bringing the big money in. the big box. Mm-hmm. So you were the provider. You were the one that was very established. Mm-hmm. How the hell did you come into this marriage with me? Right. And be secure in that? Or were you even secure, or you were just acting like you were? Like, what was the process for you?
That's why I say, and I said this to McQuaidus when he came over the other night, when he told me he got accepted to dental school, which is amazing.
We're so happy for him. Yes. So happy. Congratulations to him.
There you go.
It was the only reason we're so excited is because it's been a journey for him to get accepted into dental school. That's amazing. So we're excited. He deserves it. Well, he has to move away, which is sad, but we're going to keep in contact. He's a part of us for life.
100%. Yeah. So, what was I going to say? I lost track of money.
We're talking about how in the hell did you trust me to come in and you were okay with that? Or was it, or were you really strategic about it?
Right. So, like I told McQuaidus, is the thing with that, you were my soulmate. I knew you were my soulmate. I had no qualms about that.
Yeah.
You're the one. You're the person for me. You were my person.
I'm your person.
You're my ride or die. And you're like, oh,
Except I don't want to die. Okay,
right.
but I'll ride.
There you go. You're right. If it's a nice, smooth ride.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll tell you how to go in that ride, like where to turn.
Yeah. So if you have both hands on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
So for me, I had no problem with that. It didn't matter. Yeah, I made most of the money. Mm-hmm. But
you made all the money, Philip. I had like pocket change.
But it was ours. And I walked in with that perception. And I was okay with that. Mm-hmm. I've always been okay with that. But I think if you have the right person, you are going to be okay with that. Mm-hmm. No matter what happens, no matter what they bring into it, it has to be.
Did you ever feel in past relationships, because, obviously you have a more like
experience.
Thank you. I like to think you didn't have any experience before me. However, you had more experience, more relationships. Did you ever have anyone that you felt uncomfortable when it came to money?
Money?
And I know marriage is different than just having a girlfriend, but
no, I didn't trust anybody else.
Okay.
With money, but my money, no one.
How was it in your first marriage when it came to money?
That's a good question. I don't think that was the one thing that wasn't our problem.
I know, but did you guys combine things, or was everything very separate and that's why it worked? Or how did you guys do that?
It's the same way we do it. We combine big things, but we both had our own personal account.
I mean, she's a baller. You guys were beginning to ball. You guys had this.
She was a specialist, and so
that wasn't an issue.
Yeah, she made more than me actually. So, but that wasn't the issue. Mm-hmm. But with everybody else, no, I never trusted anybody with my money. I was very, very, very selfish when it came to that. So, so I didn't have any issue walking into our relationship and trusting that. But that's a huge problem. Well, that's the other thing. People don't talk about finances.
Yeah.
People don't talk about how they handle their money. Because some people are spenders.
Yeah.
Some people are savers.
I'm a spender by nature.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Leonette. I'm a spender, but I think I'm a kind of a recovering.
You are a recovering spender. You are.
And
because you handle our budget now.
I do. And
we wouldn't be
honestly,
in Tybee Island right now.
Oh, don't say that.
Condo
no.
If you were still a spender.
Oh, stop.
But it's true though.
I think no, don't give me all the accolades. It was a group effort. However, I never was taught any of that. Most of us are never taught about money. But I do remember in the very beginning, you were very adamant about me being transparent about my finances. And yes, what I made back then definitely wasn't the same as you. And my debt wasn't maybe as big, but for me, it was big. So I literally had to bring it out on the table. We sat at the dining room table.
Yeah, you're very transparent.
I brought everything that I owed, like student loans. I think I only had one or two credit cards, but they weren't a lot. Mm-hmm. But for me, they were.
Right.
But now that I think, versus my income. But I remember you being very just lay it out on the table. Don't be embarrassed. Mm-mm. We're going to figure this out together.
The first thing we're going to do is take care of all your debt. We're going to knock out all this debt.
Then we worked on yours. I feel like when it comes to money, we've been on the same page.
100%.
But we've had to be very transparent. And I remember being highly embarrassed.
Yes.
And then when you saw it, you're like, I don't know if you said it, but I could tell you were like, okay, this is not so bad. Yeah, not so bad for you because you make money. But for me, it's like, this is a big deal.
It's all relative.
Yeah, you were kind of like, oh, okay, that's not so bad. Because it wasn't bad in the grand scheme of things.
But this is the cool thing about it. It wasn't like I said, all right, this is your debt. Let me pay this off.
No.
We strategically said, all right, based on what you're making, let's start knocking out these different things of debt.
Yes.
And
that's what it was.
I didn't just write a check and cleared your debt.
No,
it was more of
hey,
let's just start paying it down.
That would have been nice. But you didn't. that would have been real nice. He made me pay off my debt, and then I could be a stay-at-home mom. No, I'm kidding. That's not. I don't remember how it happened.
That's the process.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like you will pay off. You will work at a crappy job and be miserable. Pay off your debt, and then you can stay home. No, it wasn't that way, but it was good. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You're very smart about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And again, we were never taught that.
No.
We didn't get that in school. I didn't get that from my parents. I mean, Mama was a spender. Daddy was he was cheap in his mind. He said frugal, and I never learned that. I mean, I guess I got it from different people. I definitely learned a lot. Again, I have to go back to this again, and I don't want to make my other siblings feel funny about it, but Carolyn really taught me a lot when it came to money. And then my roommate in the Navy, Jeff Steck is his name. He taught me a lot when it came to stocks and mutual funds and things I never learned ever. And that's something I definitely want to pass down to our kids when it comes to money and finances.
And together, while we've been married, we've taken courses. We've done the Dave Ramsey.
Yes.
We didn't follow it to a T.
We didn't.
However,
But it definitely helped.
he laid the groundwork of paying off debt
Being
and
debt
staying
free.
out of debt
Right.
and paying things in cash. And it's been hard. And it was longer than, we didn't attack everything like head on, but
Right.
it's worked for us.
It worked really
But we've
well
also
for
been
us.
very transparent. And even though I'm a spender by nature, I feel like it was a responsibility for me that one, you're like, here, you handle the finances and you make sure things get paid and you know how much I make. And I never wanted to be that woman or wife that was in the dark, that had no clue.
Right.
Because if shit hits the fan, whether it's divorce or illness or passing away, that's all very realistic things. I never wanted to be a person that was in the dark like shit. I don't know passwords. I don't know where anything is.
I don't know how much he makes.
Yeah, I know nothing.
And this is the
and I
crazy
never
thing
wanted
about it
that.
now.
Yeah.
And someone was asking me this the other day, and I was like, you know what? I don't know what I pay for. I don't even know how much I make. You know what I make. And
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
We'll go over it together later.
But I have no clue what I make.
You make a good living, Philip.
No.
That's why we were able to buy this condo.
Right, but
yeah.
I'm so lazy when it comes to that now. I think I'm at the other extreme.
You are.
I have no clue. I'm the kept man.
No.
And I have no clue what's going on.
We got into
financially.
it. We got into it the other day because we bought this condo, right? And we're talking about vacations. And, we like to travel, people. We like to travel. And so this year we're like, okay, we're going to be frugal. And you're like, well, let's go here and let's go there. I'm like, do you not understand? You just literally told me we can't go anywhere, but you want to do these things. Do you know how much that costs, Philip? And you're like, no, why would I know this? I'm like, well, you should know this. Why am I the only one that understands that this is not going to be realistic? And so, we really got into it. And then we had a simmer.
And we were at a restaurant.
We were out and
We
about.
were at a wine bar.
And I said,
a nice wine bar.
shh, you better sit down. We cannot make a scene.
I was ready to go.
I said, you're like, I'm done with this. I said, listen, you're like, you're shooting down my ideas. I'm not trying to shoot your ideas down. However, you're contradicting yourself. You're saying that you want to save money, but yet you're saying you want to go to this place and this place and this place. And that's not really saving money. That's really spending more money. And I think you think it's cheap in your mind, but it really is not, because I know that how much we've paid for these places. Right. And you're like, why would I know that? I'm like, but why do I? So it was this whole thing. So even that was like 3 months ago. That was very recent.
Yeah, it was 3 months,
where I appreciate that you have let me drive the train, because it makes me feel confident. And I feel, and going back to what I was going to say before, I felt like it was a responsibility to be
more
a good
responsible
steward of that. And we still spend, and I still like to buy my things, because everyone jokes with me where I'm like, yeah, Valentine's Day, I don't care about gifts. I don't care about gifts because I buy my stuff when I want to buy them or you buy them for me. And so I don't need these special quote unquote holidays for these things to come.
Right.
And it's not like a bragging thing. It's just that's what we do, but we do it within reason and responsible. And I take, it's a huge weight for me to spend within reason.
Right.
And I never wanted to abuse that.
Right.
Because I know that there are some men out there that make a lot of money and want to hold control of that.
Yeah.
And are, because it comes.
Wives don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
so I do appreciate
in the
that.
video
I do
that
appreciate
we watched.
that. Yeah.
He had his wife he made her be very frugal in spending and didn't realize that they were rich.
Yeah, that's right. That was
because the whole time had her thinking they were poor. And he really was, and a lot of guys are that way, and I agree with that. A lot of guys are more like, hey, I pay the bills, I take care of this, I make most of the money, I'll give you a little bit to do whatever you want with it. And you have no clue. And you hear that all the time when the guy passes away and the wife is like, I don't know.
No idea.
What's going on? I don't know what debt we have. I don't know what
So the next question is about being content. This is huge.
Okay.
And so, I think in some couples, one or both spouses are not content. What do you think the causes of this discontentment is, like in marriages? What is it?
Quality time.
You think so?
Quality time, quality time, quality time.
No matter what your love language is? What if it's shower me with gifts? I think most women deep down and men want quality time.
Yes, I agree with that. But I think if you don't spend the time with your spouse, and that can mean so many different things. It could be vacations. It could be showering them with gifts, going on a weekend and
that's not my love language, by the way.
Spending all this stuff for them, and that's not your love language.
I just like quality time, for sure.
I love the fact that that's not your.
But I do like a good gift every now and then.
That's true.
Like
so
my purple ring that you bought me a few years ago.
Yes. So I think that is, when you're not content. Is that what it was? Not content.
Not content.
Yeah, because
what are the causes of that?
Your needs not being met. That's why.
Yeah.
Your needs are not being met. So you're not content with.
I think a lot of the time people get married and in the beginning they feel like, okay, this person is adequate enough to marry, and they get married because maybe it's the season in their life where they feel like they have to.
And they check the boxes.
And they don't really that's the main, for me, when it comes to marriage. Yeah, there's a lot of shit that comes up, but in the end, do you like that person?
True.
And are you guys growing in the same trajectory? Like you and I were joking because we were driving and our taste buds have evolved even in the same way.
True.
Where
we used to like the sweetest coffee. Or
the sweetest drinks.
Yes.
And now it's evolved into it needs to be a little bit stronger. It needs to be a little, coffee, more espresso.
And our wine palate is advanced.
And that's just kind of like a very superficial thing. But are you guys growing together?
Right.
Do you still like each other?
Right.
And I really, truly feel if we took a poll of most people, did they really like that person? Yeah, they're okay. I think people just wanted to get married, and they're not really vetting this person. It's just like, this is the next step. We've been together. We got to. I don't want to waste my time with this person. We've been together for 3 years, so the next logical thing is to move forward with marriage.
Right.
And they're not really thinking about that this is really not my person. I really feel like if people, when they think back, they know that was not my person, but I went through it anyways.
You have a lot of people that think that way. All right, and you also have the other percentage, though, Leonette, and I think that's probably the majority. They get divorced. I think
it is, yes.
That's the majority that get divorced. But you also have the other percentage that they did like that person.
Okay. And what happened?
At the beginning.
Okay.
But they didn't put in the time. Mm-hmm. They didn't put in the work to get the results. And they weren't intentional about dating each other.
Okay. I see that.
And then they didn't like each other anymore.
Yeah. It started off positive in a positive way.
And that was the reason why they married that person. Mm-hmm. There's that other percentage. But you can grow out of like with people just like you can grow out of love with someone. And if you don't like put in time with them, you have friends that you like, but you don't like spend time with them. You're not intentional with them. And you know what? They're not your friends anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just that simple. Some people, obviously there's events that happen over time that maybe divide or break up a friendship, but
so you think that's the same with marriage?
Just grow away from each other.
I've been listening I listen to a morning show here in Atlanta. It's syndicated, so it's not just Atlanta anymore.
The Burt Show.
And also I listen to podcasts. And so the question that they keep asking is, what is the point of getting married? Like back in the day, there was a reason for it. Like women had to get married. They didn't have careers of their own. They would go to college, not really to get an education, but to find a husband.
It was strategic.
Nowadays, what is the purpose of getting married for a man and for a woman? What is the purpose?
That's a good question. For me, and I have to say I'm very traditional. For me, I think you can't go on with life by yourself. And I think you're better together than better separate. And yeah, you can be together with someone, not be married with them, but you can easily walk away from that.
Yeah.
If we were never married, if we never made a vow to each other in front of people 18 years ago, coming up on 19 years ago in September, we would not be together right now. Because it was so easily...
Why you trying to get rid of me so many years ago?
Because that would have been so easy
just to be like, I'm out.
To leave.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that Robert brought up in the men's group was, if everything in your marriage financially is separate,
that's easier to split.
Then it's easier to split because you have no conflict financially to go.
Yeah.
If they all have a joint account and everything has always been separate, that's just that easy way to just say, you know what? I'm done. Mm-hmm. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And if you never married that person and y'all was together, y'all been together for years, never truly got married, any problem that comes up, you can just walk away and be done.
There's a lot of people out there that can say that have been together for a long time without the marriage.
True.
That would argue that.
Yeah, but that's such a small percentage.
That's rare. You think it's rare.
That's such a small percentage. There's an exception to everything.
Yeah.
There's an exception to every rule. So
you think it's a smaller percentage than...
I think it's a very small percentage. But I think that's not how God made us, to be separate, to be individuals to a point in which we don't need someone else. Someone doesn't make you happy. But the right person, I feel, makes you better. And I feel like my life is so much better in having you in it as husband and wife than we just roommates. Mm-hmm. And we have some kids together.
Yeah, that would be really weird for me specifically.
I could just
to have kids and not be married.
It's just...
I mean, I've been there. It was weird. I've already been there, done that, and it was not fun.
You experienced that side. So.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good at all, actually. It doesn't feel right in your spirit, and I don't give a shiza or shit what people think that, oh, no, it works. you're in denial. I think a lot of people are in denial if they think, oh, that works for you. I don't know.
Quick question for you.
Yes.
This came up in my mind right now.
Yeah.
How would you feel if I had kids?
Prior to us? Mm-hmm. Well, I think we've talked about that. It would have been hard. Mm-hmm. I think it would have been hard. I'm never been a stepmom. So I feel, this is what I feel, because I love you so much, like truly love you. I would love that child and accept them as one of mine. I feel that in my heart. I think when I was younger, I'd be like, oh yeah, no way. That would be too hard. I don't know. Because I have been a stepchild and I've seen a blended family and, you know, everyone does the best that they can.
Right.
With what is given to them or what they've chosen for themselves, you know. Right. But I just adore you. And I just think that you would have such a cool little kid, even if it wasn't from me, that
right.
I think now as a 44-year-old woman and we've been married for 18 years, it would be, we would bring it all together. I think in my 20s.
At this point,
Yeah, in my 20s. You should have asked me this question in my 20s.
Yeah.
I think at that time we did talk about stuff like that.
We did.
And I
we
said,
talked about everything.
You are a better person to be the stepdad than me.
Right.
Because
I have more patience.
I'm very raw and it's still raw for me. And maybe because of my experience of not always feeling accepted, whether it's true or not, everybody out there, everyone has their version of the story.
True.
For me, I didn't always feel 100% accepted by my step-parent.
Right.
Not truly.
Right.
Appearances are different than what is happening inside a home and like how that person is making you feel.
Right.
And that's another story for another time. But maybe from that experience, I probably would have been more hyper aware if you had a child.
Right.
And been more on this path of like, I got to make this work.
Because it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious.
I don't know.
I know we talked about
it. Would have been
briefly,
hard. It would have been hard.
But I was just curious when you were bringing that up, kind of how that would have played itself out.
It would have been hard. I'm not going to lie.
Right.
I don't want to be like it would have been easy peasy. I don't think it would have.
Okay.
So I give you props on marrying me with a child. Right. I give you big props for that because that's hard. I think it's harder than most people want to admit.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I think you asked that question in our men's group, but in our men's panel.
I think it's harder than people would want to admit to it. Because everybody wants to be
you
like,
have to be real.
I'm
you have to be transparent.
Yeah, I'm the best.
It's not an easy situation.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it was easier when Kaylin's father, to be truly honest, was non-existent. Mm-hmm.
Before that, it was a little harder.
But he was always non-existent.
Well,
I mean, he was non-existent. I mean, he really wasn't. Even when he was there, he wasn't there.
Okay.
He was a cool uncle.
Yeah, that's true.
But if he was someone that was, I don't know.
I do admire, I know there's families out there that really blend people.
Well.
Yes.
But that's the exception.
But I think maybe like how we talk about our marriage looking quote unquote easy for some people.
They had to work through some things.
There's some things that they had to work through, but they were mature enough to work through it. And so now it looks like, oh wow, I could never do. But I think there's some people that have that secret sauce for blending families, for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. Okay, let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. All right, this is one of the questions on this little agenda here. Sex. Is it often a problem in marriages, and why? What is the solution?
Communication.
Okay.
I go back to communication because you do want to know what pleases your spouse, and you need to be very transparent on what that is. And I mean, that's a huge thing when it comes to any relationship is sex. How good is it? Because if it's good, it makes it better, the relationship better to some degree. And, obviously some people can just be booty calls, and you have booty calls that are awesome and great.
In your marriage?
No, I'm talking about
just in general.
In relationships.
Oh, I gotcha.
In relationships. But when it's awesome in a marriage, oh my goodness. That's
I don't know, Philip. You tell me, since you've had a lot of booty calls. Is there a difference?
Damn, no, you didn't just do that.
Hey.
So, there's a huge difference for a guy.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Is there? Because women look at guys and are like, sex is just sex for you guys. You guys.
You know why, though?
You guys.
When we break down my theory.
Okay, break it down.
On sex.
Yeah.
For a guy and a girl. Very few women, and you've heard me say this before, can just say that sex is a booty call.
Okay.
Very few women.
Oh, like a woman can't say, "Oh, he's my booty call." There's some kind of attachment. I got you.
Attachment.
Yeah. There's some kind of.
It's not like a guy doesn't have an attachment, but if you have to say, "Hey, which person's going to be more attached when they have sex?" It's going to be a woman. But if you really, really, really break it down and being very transparent, when you have sex with someone, right?
Yeah.
The woman is the most vulnerable person in that process.
Yeah. So why you guys abuse that shit? That's my question, Philip.
Yeah.
Because we all know that.
Yeah.
Why you guys do that?
Because that's not what we're thinking about.
You're selfish.
But we're not thinking about that.
Well, you're being selfish because you're thinking about your needs.
You're just thinking about the moment.
Yeah.
But no, you may be very unselfish in that process. But it's about just the moment and what's happening at that time. You're not even thinking about the repercussions, what's attached to it, the emotions involved. Because most men, unless you're with like that person, like you and I are, it doesn't matter who you with. It really doesn't.
Damn, Daniel.
But
that's messed up.
But that's being real. So sex is so important in a marriage, and that you need to communicate in a marriage what's best for you, what works for you, and that's an unresolved conflict. If y'all don't discuss that, because you can't I don't feel you can have a marriage without sex.
No.
I mean, you can have it,
but it's not fun.
Right.
It's a shitty marriage.
And it needs to be good. It needs to be good sex. So how can you make a good sex? By having that discussion, by having that conversation and being open and transparent and intentional. So yeah, that's very important.
Yeah. Yeah, it blows my mind when people are like, yeah, we've had sex 2 times in a year. I'm like, what? Like, how did that happen? That sounds crazy. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm glad we don't have that. Moving on. Moving on. Okay, you guys talked about married singles. Did you guys talk about that?
Married singles.
Like you're married, but you're single.
Yeah.
Like, what are the warning signs that a couple may be in danger of becoming, quote unquote, married singles? Like you're married, but you're acting single? What does that mean?
It goes back to some of the things we already talked about, which we'll go through this really quickly. One, you're very selfish. Because when you're single, you're selfish. You only think about yourself. So when you're married single, you're just like, hey, you do you, I do me. We good. We have this marriage, but I'm going to do what pleases me. You do what pleases you. We have separate accounts. We take care of things. And in the end, we come together and we're great. That's not lasting. That's not something that's conducive to a healthy relationship.
Do you feel based, if you're okay with me bringing this up, based on how you have described your first marriage? Now, you're not knocking her because you guys remained friends for a very long time. Even after you and I were married,
right?
You guys stayed in contact.
Right.
So it's not dogging her or anything like that. But the way you have described the marriage is that you didn't have a lot in common So you did lead separate lives.
We
the
did.
only thing that brought you guys together was maybe going to nice restaurants and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But like what you liked and what you found like was fun to do in your leisurely time
Right.
was not
The
what
same.
she liked, and vice versa.
We
what
were
she-
married singles.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
Can you relate to that?
I can relate to that 100%. It's funny that you say that because when I was just talking just a few minutes ago, I forgot that I was a married single.
Yeah, you
and
were.
my first wife.
That's why I'm bringing it up. I'm here to remind you of the hard hitting facts and truths of your life, Felipe. You're like, I don't know what that means, married single. I'm like, well, let me
Married
give
single.
you.
Let me tell you what that means in definition. But I lived it.
You lived it.
Thank you for bringing me back to reality.
Yes.
So yes, we were. I mean, financially, we were great. We had a great time. We looked good. But yeah, we were married singles because we lived separate lives during the week.
Mm-hmm.
She did her thing. I did my thing. On Fridays and Saturdays, we went to restaurants. That was our thing. We love going out. We love having dinner, nice places, experiencing different types of food. We didn't discriminate on what we ate and stuff like that. But we lived separate lives. So yeah, we were married, but we were more like roommates more than anything. And that's not sustainable. I guess if you wanted to, you could sustain it. And people do that in reality. But yeah, that's kind of like you just do your thing, I do my thing, we come together, or we just keep up appearances. And I think a lot of Christians do that. They just keep up appearances at church and in the community because it would look bad if we were to get divorced and people think, oh, what's going on with the Smiths and those people.
Yeah.
But
The Joneses
and the Tallies and stuff like that. So
the Tallies are marvelous over here.
But definitely a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
They're single, but they're married.
That sounds sad. Were you sad?
At the time, I didn't think I was.
Oh, okay. When you're going through it, you're just going through it.
Because, you're single, so you get to do your own thing. Mm-hmm. It's like you got the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what it sounds like.
That's what it feels like.
In theory, it sounds amazing because I can still be single and I can still be married. But that's not how God made us. And it doesn't feel right. It doesn't work. And
how? Because you said you didn't realize you were married single. When did it hit you? Or did it ever hit you? Obviously, you guys got a divorce for a reason.
it hit me when I had an affair. That's when it hit me. Because that's when I realized that I wasn't happy. And someone else fulfilled my needs. So at that point, you realize this doesn't work.
Yeah.
At all. Because, yeah, it feels great to be just single and hanging out and doing your own thing. But when y'all don't have the same interests, you don't have the same
values,
and then you have someone that does, then you're like, oh, well, maybe this is, but I'm still single. I'm still selfish.
Well, you're married, but you're acting single.
But I'm acting single.
Yeah.
Living separate lives. So for me, I was the one that stepped out on the marriage. And so, yeah, that was what happened. And that's how I know that doesn't work.
You just threw a bomb on this conversation. You never, I mean, I knew that, but you never openly talked about it.
Yes.
And here we are.
Yes.
You want to move on?
Yeah, I'm in.
We'll talk about the details another time for another day. We're just going to keep moving on. We're going to talk about divorce. We're talking about divorce.
Oh, we're going to have the divorce now.
We're done with the marriage question.
Funny how that comes up.
Look at you. You are you
won't
become.
God do it?
Won't he do it? This is a lead into divorce. Let's talk about divorce. Oh dear. I'm glad we're drinking, Philip.
Oh,
these are intense. These are intense questions.
That's fun.
What the hell? You guys guys talk about some deep shit in your men's group.
We do.
That's all I'm saying.
That's what makes us so good.
But you know what? This is what Virago's about. We talk about some deep shit here too. So thank you for bringing this to the table.
Yes.
All right. So we're talking about divorce because so we talked about what works in a marriage, what brings things together.
And when you're not practicing those 4 laws, what happens?
Yeah.
Divorce.
Stepping out, all that not so good stuff.
Yes.
Okay, from your experience, what are major causes of divorce? What did you guys talk about? What are the major causes?
I'd say 2 biggest things: unresolved conflict and finances.
Finances was not an issue for you guys.
Unresolved conflict was.
Unresolved conflict.
Yes. Because we had weekly, monthly arguments about religion and race all the time.
Religion and race were the 2 conflicts.
And you know what? We just agreed to disagree.
So those are value topics.
Yes.
So you guys were on the wrong side. Well, not on the wrong side, on the opposite side of
that argument.
Yeah. Okay.
Because with religion, she was an atheist.
I can't believe it.
And I was a Christian.
To this day, I can't believe you married an atheist.
Yes. But this is the thing. She was so lost. And so she was an atheist. She was a Scientologist. She was a Buddhist.
And how did you say, I'm going to marry?
Our dating and marriage, she was all of those things.
And you said, I am all that and a bag of chips.
And I'm going to change
I will
her.
flip this girl.
Yes.
It was a challenge.
Because God is going to flip this whole... And you know what? We got married in the church.
And she was okay with that?
She was okay with that because her parents were Christians.
Okay.
She just wasn't. She grew up as a Christian.
Okay.
But as an adult, when I met her, she wasn't.
Okay.
So in my mind, because her foundation was that, she just needed the right person.
And that was you.
100%.
Damn. That was you, Felipe.
And it wasn't me.
I mean, some of us have some confidence.
Yes. And race problems that we had because her mother was white and her father was Ugandan, African. She didn't believe race existed. Racism. And so we would have arguments all the time about that.
Wow.
Which was crazy because I'm like, you're
a black woman.
You're a black woman. You're a double minority.
I mean, you look at her and she looks like a black woman to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's not going to pass as white.
I mean, she's light-skinned. Light-skinned.
She's light-skinned. She might have Indian in her family, but this is the thing about it.
Yeah.
When she went to specialty in dentistry, she went to a specialty school, became an endodontist. That's people do root canals. That was her first, in her mind, experience with racism. And that's when the first time she admitted that she was discriminated against. Which, you know, the crazy thing about that was?
What?
That's when we became closer. And then she had amnesia after that.
She forgot. She persevered, and then it was back to there's no racism.
There's no racism.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. And, there's no way in the world.
That just goes back to, I think as humans, as people, we like to look at someone and see the potential of that person instead of looking at them for who they are at that moment.
Yes.
And I think that's where we need to stop doing that. Yes. It's we have this idea of like, oh, they have that.
I can change them. I can make them better.
And if they change, that's wonderful. You have to look at people for who they are in that moment.
Yes.
Can I live with this person for the rest of my life?
If they never change.
Yes.
If this is who they are, this is who they're going to be for the rest of my life.
Yes.
And if I'd had that,
it would have been a hell no.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because sometimes you deal with people on potential.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, yeah, but everything else checks the box.
Mm-hmm. This
She's
we can work through.
educated.
Yeah.
She's a professional.
She's attractive.
Yeah. She meets all the boxes. Mm. But if she never changes,
you have to be okay with it.
This is not going to work.
Yeah.
And if you can say that, then that's not the one.
Mm-hmm. That's the question. And when you start teaching our younger kids.
Yes. Yeah. And women do that a lot.
Oh, we're notorious for that. Like, he has potential.
I can make him better.
Mm-hmm.
One, I'm going to get my way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to get my way. I'm going to manipulate this situation. I'm going to maneuver this situation. I'm going to outsmart this situation. Whatever you want to say, whatever word you want to throw in there, whatever verb you want to use. And at that point, you're going to say, I can make him do what I want him to do. Or I can make him become the person that I know he can be.
Yeah.
And no.
And maybe sometimes that does work out for certain people. I'm sure there's people out there that have that story.
There'll be people that'll call in or say, hey, I did that.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
But he had to choose to become that person.
Yeah.
She had to choose to become that person. And
that's the difference.
They do not make that choice.
Yeah.
You can't make anyone do anything in this life if they don't want to do it, because they only do it temporarily. Mm-hmm. They only do it for that moment, for that period of time, and that will not make you happy.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to divorce, they always say that with the second marriage, it's a higher probability of a divorce rate with the second marriage. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting that that's like a statistic.
Right.
But I don't, and the people that we know or that I know, the second marriage seems like it's the stronger marriage.
But you know what the biggest key to that is?
What is it?
Did you learn from the first one?
Okay. So where does the statistic come from that it's a higher probability? Because most people
don't learn from that.
But do you think that's a small percentage?
No, I don't.
That people get remarried and remarried? I feel like people get married.
You know what people think? Uh-huh. What are people? Selfish.
Yeah.
So who do they place the blame
on the other
first
person?
Marriage?
Yeah,
exactly. This next person I marry, that's going to be the one.
So it's a coincidence that we have all these people in our lives that have been married a second time. You don't want to
admit that you're the problem.
I know, but
who is the common denominator in those multiple marriages? That one person.
What I'm trying to say is, I find that people did make a mistake with that first one because they rushed into it or didn't see the signs.
And the second
one, it seems like they were more conscious of who they're picking.
Yes.
I think it's very rare that ends and then there's a third wife or a fourth wife or a fifth wife.
Well, this is the thing.
That's what I think.
This is what did I feel.
So I don't know where they got these statistics from.
And I will say this because I said this before.
Okay.
All of my siblings have been divorced. Presently, all of them
are on the second one.
Or on their second.
Well.
But so the people that are on their second marriage
are
happier. They're with their person.
Yeah.
But they learned from their first marriage.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That I think most people do learn.
I don't think
from the first marriage.
I don't think our example is the rule. I really don't.
I think there's a small
most people are selfish, and most people think, oh no, that's that person's problem. I didn't do anything wrong. I was perfect. I may have one or two things that were wrong with me.
I think that's a small percentage. All I'm saying is the second marriage doesn't seem.
You think the second marriage is more successful?
That's what I'm saying, because you learned. I think this theory of that the divorce rate for second marriage is higher is flawed.
Right.
Because there is a small percentage of people that just don't learn, and they do have multiple divorces. But for the most
we're
part,
gonna have to agree to disagree.
I think. Listen, get out of here. I don't know. I think some people do learn from that first one.
I think most people don't.
I do.
I think most people are selfish. I think most people.
I'm not saying people are not selfish.
I think most people think that they're not the problem.
So you're saying there's more people on this planet that have a third marriage, a fourth marriage, a fifth marriage under their belt.
I think after the second one, I think they don't do it anymore. That's what I think.
I don't know. I think
most people are like, hey, you know what? Most people. Obviously, you have exceptions to rules. I think most people walk into their second marriage thinking they were not the problem in their first.
I agree.
That's what I think.
I do agree with that, but then they grow with that second person. I'm only basing it. I'm basing it on the people that are around us.
I agree with that 100%. Because the people around us are better in their second marriage.
Yes, that's what I say.
100%. 100%.
So I'm just going off of that. I don't know about the rest of the world. I feel like there's a lot of people that are on their first marriage that have been married for like 40, 50 years, 30 years that are miserable. So I don't really count them. I feel like they pride themselves on, we're still married. But who wants to be married that long and be miserable anyway?
Yeah, people that are very happy. So.
I don't know. Okay, so speaking of second marriages.
Right.
We're going to go off that most people stay married to their second spouse. I refuse to believe that they're the minority. I don't think they're the minority. I think they're the majority. But with those people, since I wasn't technically married, but I had a child with someone, so I don't know. Maybe we can learn from that.
It was deeper than just breaking up with someone.
What have you done differently in the second marriage? What have you learned? What has God revealed to you? What's your contribution to the failure of your first marriage that you didn't bring into the second? Let's talk about that.
I think for me, one of the best things that happened to me was like we had pre-marriage counseling, but after we were divorced, we had we did counseling together, and then we did individual counseling. I carried on with my individual counseling with our person that we counseled with after our divorce.
So you guys went to counseling after the divorce. That's very interesting.
When we had that process of the divorce to decide if we really wanted
if it was happening. I gotcha.
Right. And I continued, even though we got divorced, with that same counselor individually and worked through problems. Because I think, and that's why I feel so adamant about it, is if I didn't do that, even though I wasn't I was your person and we were meant to be together, but I would not have been the person that I was when we got married if I hadn't gone through that counseling.
You think so?
And I wasn't even perfect after I'd gone through it, obviously, because we still had problems. But with that counseling, I recognized where I contributed to our marriage not working. Obviously, I was unfaithful. But also, there was things that I contributed to that process that if I hadn't gone through that counseling and that therapy, that I would have brought into our marriage. I would have brought baggage, suitcases that I had to unpack with that therapist prior to our marriage. Because if I hadn't, I would have walked in thinking,
it's not me problem.
I wasn't the problem. And I would have repeated that process in our marriage.
and you would have had to sleep with one eye open because I would have punched you in the throat, cut off body parts.
Right.
Yeah. So aren't you glad you went to therapy before?
Yes, because I would have died in my sleep.
I wouldn't have killed you in your sleep.
Quote unquote natural causes.
I would not have done that, but I would severely have hurt you in your sleep. Or not even in your sleep. You could have been awake.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think from...
so therapy helped.
Therapy helped 100%. And that's the thing in the Black community that, we don't want to... We think therapy is like for white people. Mm-hmm. And therapy is just for people. I mean, mental health is a true problem. But the thing is, the thing with therapy is you have to look within yourself. Because you can't think that it is someone else's problem.
And you get someone that, obviously they're not emotionally tied up with your situation. So they're just kind of...
They have very subjective...
Yeah, they have zero emotions.
Right.
Because it has nothing to do with them.
Objective viewpoint. Yeah. And
so they can give you perspective.
Yeah, they're going to give you perspective on it. And with any mental health, any mental or whatever thing, you have to be able to cope and deal with your issues.
What were some things that you think would have, if you hadn't had therapy, you would have brought into this marriage? Like, what were some epiphanies for you?
Oh, I see what you're doing there. I see what you're doing there.
What am I doing?
So what I would have walked into...
I'm just asking you a question.
I know, look at you. I would have walked into this thinking, just like I said, that nothing that took place was my problem.
Like what? I'm just curious.
Despite her being an atheist, despite her not thinking that racism existed, I still would have seen where I was selfish.
Like whatever you did was justified because of this and this and this don't align with me. Okay.
Exactly. Because, those were two big things that we argued about, and those were unresolved conflicts. But if I didn't realize the things that I contributed to the marriage that was my fault, the things that I needed to resolve with myself, then I would have walked into our relationship thinking, when this happens, then it's really not me. It has to be with Leonette's problem. And maybe I wouldn't have had that God moment when I was about to leave and walk out that day. That I realized that, it is about me. I'm not perfect. I'm not someone that's without fault or blame. And that was hard to kind of face that in the first marriage. And to see that, I actually did contribute to that besides the obvious things. Because everyone can bring up the obvious things. That's a problem. But that's the things that are underlying that you actually also contributed to this whole process. And so when it is something that you have to look at yourself and you have to say, hey, this is what I contributed to this situation and this is something that I need to improve on, that's when you really grow. And that's when you really have to look within yourself and say, hey, you didn't do this well. You brought on this issue and this is something you need to improve on. Because if you never do, you're just going to take that baggage. You're going to take that suitcase and bring it to, you're going to travel with that. You're going to bring it into the next one and then just continue to think, hey, I'm going to unpack it here. Mm-hmm. I'm going to bring this suitcase down, this baggage into this relationship. And
well, some of us don't like to unpack suitcases, so it just stays closed.
Exactly.
Just put it in a closet somewhere.
Unresolved conflict, AKA unresolved conflict.
Yeah. And
then, and here we are.
I mean, this is some good stuff. You were very vulnerable today, Felipe. Yes. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, baby.
I hate that you got a divorce. but I'm thankful at the same time. Can two emotions exist? Like, divorce is always sad, and you never want that. However, we wouldn't have the life that we have 100%. Hadn't it been for you getting a divorce.
Yes.
So, negatives can be turned into positives if you really want something different for yourself.
Because Khalil and Karim would not be here right now.
No.
So, yes, that's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing.
And I wouldn't have gotten to be with Kaylin and been in her life.
And missed out on all this amazingness that's sitting in front of you.
Oh, my goodness. I can't even imagine. I
am like so fun. I'm hilarious.
Yes.
And I keep you on your toes.
100%. 100%. So, this is the life that we built. Mm-hmm. This is the life that we have together. And it hasn't always been amazing and beautiful and perfect.
There's been some messiness.
But you know what? It is what it has been.
Yeah.
Because we are who we are and we've learned from it. We've grown from it. But the bottom line through all of this is that we've always loved each other.
Yeah.
We've never not loved each other. Now, we might not have liked each other at the moment.
I've always liked you. What are you talking about, Philip? Always liked you. Yeah.
But we've always loved each other.
Yeah.
And we always knew what our foundation was.
And at the core of everything, we do have the same ideas and values of what we want from our life.
And for our kids.
In this world, it's the same.
Yes.
So even though situations arise that feel devastating at the time or feel overwhelming or feel, you just feel your feelings deep down, we're on the same page, we're on the same team. And this is an uncomfortable situation and an uncomfortable moment. But we believe and we have the same goals and we believe in the same things. The foundation is solid.
Right.
So all this other little shit that comes up, it's just a matter of communicating.
Right.
Being honest, being real, being open.
And we can resolve that conflict.
And being mature enough to receive it. Because sometimes it's hard to receive information that, you can tell me that, you're being a certain kind of way in this moment. That's not who I am at my core. I'm being that person at that moment. Right. And you should be able to say that. Person.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to receive it, even though it's not comfortable. I'm not going to receive it with oh, yes, you're right, Philip.
I'm glad that you show me I'm being selfish and I'm being and everything.
Nobody loves that.
But again, if you haven't had that moment, like I said previously, if I didn't have that therapy, I would have never recognized when you brought that up that I was in the wrong.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's a balance, and we'll end, we're ending this conversation pretty soon, but I feel within looking at that, there's a balance of where you have to show that person that you really love them and really are there for them so that when you do bring up something that's uncomfortable, they know that it's coming from a place of love.
Yes.
Of that, I'm bringing this to you because it doesn't feel right in my spirit. Right. Can we talk about it?
Right.
And then that other person receives it like, shit, I don't like you bring this to my attention.
Right.
But I know it's coming from a place of love because everything else in our lives, you show me that you love me. You show that is the magic sauce.
Yes.
I feel that's the magic sauce. It's very hard to get to that point. But once you get there, it's like, okay, this is a safe space. He's not talking about me as a person. He's just talking about me in that situation.
Right.
And then I can step back and look at it and be like, yeah, you're right. Or maybe sometimes you're not right. But let's have a conversation about it. Why you think that? This is my perspective. This is where I'm coming from. This is why I reacted that way, or this is why I said what I said.
Right.
Let's get some perspective and have that conversation. But it has to come from a place of I am secure with this relationship with this person.
Right.
Because they have shown me X, Y, and Z so that when they bring some crap to me that I need to change, And that's lacking in a lot of relationships. Not even just romantic relationships, just relationships in general with mom and a dad, or a mom and a daughter, or a mom and a son, or a sister and a brother, or a sister and a sister. It's that insecurity that maybe you don't feel seen or heard by that person. So every little thing feels like an attack because you don't feel like you have a foundation.
100%.
Yeah. So
it's just relationships. It's almost like what Daddy used to say, and I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, because those is the biggest thing he always said. When you have an argument or a discussion, is it the right time? Is it the truth? And is it from a place of love? And if you can answer yes to all of that, then you have that conversation. Yeah. You're right. So thank you.
No, I thank you. I thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Philip. This was a deep conversation. I know you and I can talk about marriage for forever.
Right.
I'm sure we'll come back and talk about other things.
Right.
I feel like we're passionate about it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Love you.
I love you too. Thanks. Thank you so much for listening to Virago 24/7. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and please give us 5-star ratings. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Virago24_7 and on Facebook at Virago24/7, and just connect with us and share your story. We'd love to hear from you.